Hello and welcome to a pledge to make the world a better place. The art of holding space for one another. Hello, I'm Chirashri Banerjee, the founder of Quantum Dynamic 8, Recreating Life and Living. And I am so very happy to welcome you to this space and present to you this live event. So, when we are talking about holding space for one another, it's not just in your personal relationships, but it's also in a professional setup, whether it's your office, whether it's a school, whether it's your family members, or whether it's your lover. It is important to hold space in every relationship. I cannot emphasize more about the importance of holding space for one another, because a world that we are in now, where people don't really hold space for each other, we do not consider the best interest of another person, with increasing narcissistic abuse, situationship culture in relationship, and all the toxic traits that we see, especially in the relationship realm, or even the toxic environment we hear of in corporate sectors or in any industry, actually reflects that we are all in a state of utter chaos. We are in a situation at this point as a world where we do not really care about the other person. We do not really want to engage in real conversations. Like, we have a world where we have the swipe right culture. And with the swipe right culture, we have forgotten to be present with one another. We do not really vibe with others because the other person or you are not willing to engage in a real time conversation and relationship. And it is extremely important to develop a real relationship. Whether you are having a connection with your clients or you are having connection with your friends, the genuine need to listen to the other person, the genuine need to be present with the other person is so very important. We literally are in a phase where people talk to each other because they just want to purge out what's holding them back, and then they don't really listen. They're on their phones. Like, how many times have you been to a cafe and you have seen that two people who are supposed to be talking to each other are on the phone? And that's the culture we are in today. You visit someone's house and they are on their phone, listening to their own type of songs, chatting on WhatsApp, laughing, and you are out there sitting like a fool, and you don't have any other option but to start scrolling your feed. We are in a generation where half of our time passes where we are scrolling our feed and watching reels. But we have forgotten to build a relationship. We forward people reels, we forward people memes, but do we ask each other how we are doing? We may have been in situations where we ask a person that how they are doing, we kind of get into a conversation, but ultimately it changes the route, and we end up talking about ourselves. This has been psychologically proven that wherever two people are talking, any person will try to redirect the conversation back to themselves. And people love talking about themselves. And when we consciously choose to talk to each other rather than talking about ourselves, we can build a relationship. Rapport building happens when we exchange conversations like, "Hi, how are you doing today? What did you eat today?" All right, so I ate so and so dish. And what about you? So, to elongate the conversation, the small talk that we dismiss are extremely important to build a relationship, to talk about how the other person is feeling, how the other person is thinking, how their day was, what their day is like, what they do in a day, what they like to explore. Why do they like to explore that? And when you are asking these questions to the other person, when the other person also asks you the same questions and you build a deep, enriching relationship and listen to each other for the sake of listening to each other, we can build a relationship. But very unfortunately, at this point, we have relationships where people literally just want to just make out. And it's just about making out with the other person and then having no conversation with the other person. We live in a society where people ghost each other, people do not hold space for one another, people get bullied at work, people get bullied in every possible industry, and people are made to feel alone because we are not bothering to consider the best interest of the other person. With the victimhood culture, like you cannot be a victim, you cannot talk about your problems, people have shut themselves up. People do not want to express how they are feeling. People often feel ashamed. With a yoke positive culture, people have forgotten to express themselves. People have forgotten to really talk about their own self. Sometimes people do not even want to journal because they do not want to think something negative. And with that, we are losing our authenticity. We are pretending to be a certain way. We're pretending to be love and light, and we are literally bypassing our own emotions. We have forgotten to talk about our emotions. We have forgotten to talk about how we really feel, what's really happening in us. And we are living life superficially to live up to a so called benchmark. And in the pursuit of living up to a so called benchmark, we think that, oh, I shouldn't be talking like this, or I shouldn't be interested in that, oh, that's a low vibe, I shouldn't be hearing that. And we have ended up in situations where even if a person wants to tell you, like, oh, I really don't feel good, we end up telling people, like, oh, come on, that's such a victimhood mentality. Just change the way you look. But it's not about changing the way you look, it's just about expressing what's happening. As you express what's happening, as you are genuinely real about what's happening, the dismissing of factor of, oh, you just need to think positive, you just need to chill, these kind of conditioning have left us in a situation where we don't want to connect to people. We don't want to listen to what's happening with them. We don't want to be present with them. We do not want to engage in a real time conversation. And as a result of it, what's happening is that we are in a situation where we do not have real connections with people. We are in a society where you will see so many people talking about, I have no friends, the I have no friends culture, the I love to live in isolation culture is of no good, because what's the point of having all the success and at the end of the day you do not have anyone to share that with? You're all by yourself and you just cannot share that with the other person. People are scared of the other person getting jealous. People are scared of the other person will make them feel like they're not good enough. The other person will judge them. With all of that objections, we are at a point where we are hiding, and we are a society in a shell, and this has to end. And if this continues, we are all going to be a generation getting into a state of utter depression and chaos. We will be locking ourselves up in rooms, wanting to just not come out of that dark space. And that is where procrastination comes in. That is where not feeling the enthusiasm to do something comes in. Whenever we are not enthusiastic, whenever we are feeling like, oh, I don't feel like doing something, because you feel like, what's the point? No one even cares. But with 8 billion people on earth, nobody should feel like no one cares. And if we are creating a world where we are starting to feel like no one cares, it's time to recheck our own values, how we are showing up for this world, and what are we really doing. Being a human and being awakened really doesn't mean that you isolate yourself. I have seen people emphasize on that, oh, you're not really alone, the universe is with you. Why chosen ones need to be alone? They don't need to be alone. Nobody needs to be alone. If you are all by yourself and you do not really have someone to talk to, you cannot really express your thoughts, you will be having a lot of wounds, a lot of triggers surfacing up every now and then. You will be living in your head most of the time, in your thoughts, wondering and processing, trying to realize things, and in that process you will be missing out on a lot. And that can be accomplished much faster when we start to share that with other people, when we do not bottle up our thoughts and when we start to share that with other people, and also genuinely take interest in how the other person is feeling, what the other person is going through, we are taking the responsibility to re regulate our collective nervous system together. Whenever you are in a social setup where you're being bullied, people don't really get you, people don't really have the best interest, they're making you feel like there's something wrong with you, you need to change, they're pointing out your flaws, every human being starts to feel paranoid. Every human being starts to feel ashamed. Every human being starts to feel like, oh, I'm not good enough. And the moment a person gets into the cycle of, I'm not good enough, they don't want to show up for themselves anymore. The moment you have made a person feel like, oh, you are unworthy, you are pushing that person towards more procrastination, more frustration. You are piling that person up with thoughts of feeling like they don't stand anywhere. And the idea that, oh, we do not really own what another person feel and think is so toxic. We of course own how another person feel and think in our presence. If we are consciously making another person feel bad and a part of us are feeling like we are triggering the other person to push them, that's where we are wrong. You cannot trigger a person and push that person towards success, because when you trigger a person and push that person towards success, you're pushing that person towards success from a state of survival. You're pushing that person towards a state of success from a state where they have to do that from a state of fury, and they're not really going to reflect the best of them, but they're going to reflect a part of them which is enraged. And once they have expressed that and have been pushed forward, they are again going to go back to where it began. And this happens because you are not considering the long term factor. And this is with a lot of success gurus and the culture of triggering posts and posts that really make you instantly click and buy, which focuses on making you feel like what you are lacking. When you are, say, you are buying a course which is promising you 10x your life, and you are going for that when you are being told that if you don't do it, you're going to be remaining in that darkness, you're going to be suffering, and you literally take that step because you are enraged and triggered in those parts. But then, after you have purchased the course, you do not take actions. You do not want to take the steps, because what's the problem is that when we are talking to a person about, oh, you're stuck, you're not moving forward, and then we are offering the person, these are the strategies you need to take to 10x your life, it will not help, because the person clicked on that link because the person is going through some kind of triggers within. So the trigger points we sell, it's important to heal those trigger points to take the person towards the direction of the results we are promising. I help people with relationship manifestation, career manifestation, shadow work, healing, inner work, Reiki. And regardless of the program they are in, our main focus is to see where they are at this point in all layers of themselves, whether emotionally, mentally, career wise. What are they really looking for? What are the aspects that needs to move within them for them to really take actions and move ahead? When we are triggering a person in points of, oh, you've been single for so long, and if you have been single for this long, you will never find a person, and the person goes and clicks the link of a relationship manifestation program which talks about rewiring your mindset, staying positive, and self concept. Whereas the person, on the contrary, is going through a situation where the person needs to find themselves, needs to realize what they are really looking for, is feeling a sense of emptiness within, is feeling crushed, is not really realizing what's going on. All those aspects remain untouched. And you may even tell that person that, oh, you don't need to touch that person. You become what you think. And that's where that gap in consciousness is formulated. That distance of nobody really gets me, I'm not really getting something which really clicks with me kind of vibe comes in. And for that to stop, we need real connections. We need to start to normalize asking people what they are feeling, what they're processing in their personal life. Every time your personal life, your emotions, your inner triggers are going to affect all areas of your life, whether it's your relationships, whether it's your friendships, whether it's your work, everything is impacted by what's going on inside. So when another person is not really considering your best interest, it's just there because they just have to be there, are just telling things because they just have to tell things, are not really telling things because you need to hear, those words do not reach us at the core. Those words do not touch us at the core. And when we do not feel that sense of touch, sense of connectedness, we really stand in a situation where we feel a sense of gap energetically with the other person. In order to understand how to hold space for the other person, it's very important to understand energy and emotion simultaneously. Whatever you are in a situation, and say you have met a new person, and the person is a new employee in your office, and you are also in that company, and to really build a relationship with the other person, it's really important to go ahead and match body language, go ahead and start to interact and ask the person questions, and genuinely being interested to listen what the other person is saying. And as you listen, assimilate, realize, integrate, understand, and understand what the other person is saying. From that space, you are reflecting back. And when you reflect back in that way with anyone, they are bound to be captivated, to be present with you and listen to you and hear you out. And once you have got a person to a state of really listening to you and being present with you, and you can literally make the person be at ease and in a state of presence, they will naturally feel expanded. They will naturally feel like a space is being held for them, and they will open up to you. And that is where that flow, that inner momentum of beautiful flow of relationship, consciousness starts to build, regardless of it's a professional relationship or personal relationship or a friendship. But when we are just talking to a person and the person is telling something and we're not literally listening, the other person literally gets it. How am I being able to inform you this? Because I have faced it and I have explored it and I have felt it too. And every other person like me can feel it too. If you're just not listening to the other person, but just talking for the sake of talking, but not literally being present with what they are saying. The art of being present with another person, the art of being there for another person, is to realize that we need to consider that how the other person is feeling. How can we both share a common state of feel goodness together and hold space for one another? And for that, we need to realize that we are all energetic beings having a human experience. Everyone on earth is a molecule inside of you. And literally, whoever you meet is an aspect inside of you. So, literally, everyone you meet is going to trigger or bring up a sensation in you. Realizing the sensational aspect you feel in coherence to the presence of the other person is where you are sharing a shared consciousness with the other person. We all share consciousness. We are one humanity, one consciousness. So whenever we are feeling the aspect of other person, we are literally talking to them from within. Whatever is coming up as your awareness, maybe you come in presence of a person and you feel like wanting to tell, like, it's been really cold these days and I have been wondering to take a walk. And maybe the other person might tell you that, oh, even I've been thinking of taking a walk. Like, let's take a walk together in the morning and just go for morning walk. Winter morning walks are really beautiful. And as you shared that, maybe the person tells you that, yeah, I used to go on long walks in the morning where I used to stay. It's been a while. I really miss my old neighborhood. And then you get into a conversation of, oh, where was your last neighborhood? Like, oh, over there, right? Like, isn't dash, dash, and dash there? And that's how you get into a real time conversation with someone where things resonate. And you can apply this with your ideal clients, your audience you're talking to for your YouTube or Facebook Live, because that's how to connect to people. Whenever I am tapping into the collective consciousness, my clients always tell me that no matter what message you send, it literally resonates with me because I have been applying this consciously for years. And I've never really shared this out loud. Shared this in my courses, but I don't think I have really shared this secret or spilled this secret out there in public. But I think it's time for us all to know, and it's not something to hide and keep it as a secret, but it's a important equipment that we all need, a tool we all need to move forward to create the world into a better place for us all. So whenever I am sending a group a message, or I'm talking to my collective of clients I'm working with, I usually will go within and just sit and think about these people and truly feel the sensation that's coming up, truly feel the awareness that are coming up, truly realize and sense what's vibing at the core. And from there, I will usually share the messages. And when I share the messages from there, it resonates with them because I am tapping into their aspect inside of me. I'm tapping into their molecular aspect within me. And if somebody in your presence is stressed, is feeling suffocated, it's about tapping into the aspect within where the molecular aspect in you is feeling suffocated and changing the structure by feeling love inside and out. And this is why it's said everywhere, like, be the frequency of love. And that's all you need to be to radiate that frequency everywhere. But it's not just a word, it's not the feeling of love, but it's the state of love. And to feel the state of love in a shared existence and presence is to include the other person energetically. So, say you are a group of 5 people and you are seated with 5 group of friends, and you have different conversations happening, different people are telling different things, a part of you is feeling zoned out. That's exactly where you need to see that where am I not feeling connected to the aspect of these people. It's easy to say that, oh, I'm zoning out because I'm not vibing with these people. They are like low vibe people, I'm high vibe people, that's why we don't vibe. That's so childish to say, honestly. But whenever you are feeling vibed out, where is it that I'm not catching the vibe? What is the molecular aspect that connects us all? What is the aspect of commonality where I can be present in this situation? What is the sensation which brings me closer to these people? When you ask these questions, you'll naturally tap into aspects where you can feel the sense of commonality and belongingness in any group, with anyone. And in order to build a relationship with just anyone is to consider the aspect in them within. What a narcissist does is that the narcissist triggers you in aspects where you don't feel good, you don't feel confident. They gaslight you, tell you that you're crazy, make you feel bad. And when you are feeling bad and when you're feeling powerless, they literally start to feel like they are gaining a sense of power. They're getting control over you. And that's just a inauthentic way of living, where they're just living by the virtue of a consciousness, where they believe that just by making another person feel bad, by making the other person feel like what's bad in them, how they are not strong, I will feel strong because my source of strength is to create chaos. And that's the programming coming from. They have taken it for granted that they want to create chaos. Like somebody has given them a ticket, like, go ahead and create more chaos. And whenever a narcissist is creating more chaos, whenever a narcissist is creating a scenario where they are making the entire situation chaotic and dramatic, and unnecessarily they are talking about things that do not need to be talked about, unnecessarily they are making things complicated, and that's just a way of gaining power to feel good within, without considering that how the other person will feel. The moment we all consciously start to realize that whatever am saying, if someone else was telling this to me, how would I react? How would I feel? How would it feel to me if someone else was behaving this way with me? So, would I want someone else to behave like this with me? And if it's a no, then consciously taking the decision of not behaving in those ways, but to consider the best interest of others and treating people how we want to be treated is going to help us hold space for one another. Jesus has already talked about it, that love your neighbors as I have loved you. So, as God has loved you unconditionally, as God has been there, as God has been present with you, same way being present with the other person. Literally, whenever you are triggering another person, they literally feel clogged. And once the person starts to feel clogged and you further insult them, humiliate them, they're leaking energy. They literally are bifurcating their energy field, and parts of their energy is getting leaked here, parts of their energy gets blocked, a parts of their energy gets confused, and that's how their energy structure is fragmented. And literally those structure have to move and finally go through experiences to recalibrate back to a state of alignment. And nobody needs to go through that kind of chaos. Nobody has to go through dysregulated nervous system because of anyone else. Like when a person goes through dysregulated nervous system, their health deteriorates, their productivity deteriorates. They don't want to show up for life. They don't want to be present in situations. They're not that motivated. They're not that moved. They're not that inspired in life anymore. They literally have their energy vortex, their energy field. Literally, there are parts which are like dispersing out the energy. There are parts which are kind of in a state of shock, which are kind of leaking energy. There are parts which are confused, and there are aspects of energy coming in which are forming new structures of thoughts energetically and making them get into the dimensions of solid structured energy of I'm not good enough. And all of those chaos start to happen when we do not consciously be present in a situation. And whether you are a school teacher, whether you are a mother, it's very important, that's why, to consider your child's best interest. If a child is playing and it's supposed to play and have fun and sometimes create mess, you go ahead and talk to the child in a way where you are hurting the child, yelling at the child, making the child feel terrible. Their entire energy field, their nervous system are going for a toss and reset. No one on earth needs that. No one on earth needs to go through again and again the great reset. And the great reset happens whenever we do not consider the best interest of another person. Any relationship you get into and you make a person feel like you're into it just for having it, the other person is naturally going to feel bad. There are going to be aspects of them that are in anger, that are in rage. There are going to be piled up wounds and triggers and feeling like they're not loved, their best interests are not being considered. All those kind of thoughts are bound to come for that other person, and the other person is bound to feel horrified in a situation like that. And being in situations like that, people have, unfortunately, the main point of doing this live stream today was to talk it out and reach out to more people who are settling for relationships where they have to make the other person feel a certain way, feel good, and the other person is making them feel bad, and then again they are chasing the other person and they are making their entire life about the other person, whereas the other person is not considering their best interest. These people have forgotten how it feels to be themselves, how it feels to really live for themselves, how it really feels to live a life where they are truly pampered, they're truly celebrated, they are truly cherished. And when you are not in a situation you're truly celebrated and cherished, you cannot thrive. You cannot thrive in a situation where again and again you are being made to feel bad. A seed quality is not the only ultimate factor for the tree to bloom. The soil also plays a major role. The soil's quality is extremely important. And the kind of soil you're putting yourself in is extremely important. If the soil does not bind you and hold you, you are not going to bloom in a situation like that. The tree is not going to grow, and the same way it is with human beings. If you are in a situation where nobody really cares about your dreams, nobody is talking to you about your dreams, nobody asks you about your dreams, nobody talks to you about your desires, but just tells you that, oh, you shouldn't dream so big, you shouldn't play this big, you're being crazy to think that big, like play small, think average. If you are in situations like that, you can never bloom in situations like that. You need to be around people who bring out the best in you. You need to be around people who make you feel like they care about you. You need to be around people who really nurture you and consider your best interest. And if you are not in a situation where people consider your best interest and look, people are looking for ways to make you feel bad, make you feel jealous, you are going to drain. You are going to be in a position where you feel frustrated, you don't want to show up, you feel belittled, and you ultimately do not want to even express yourself. If you are in a setup where the other person is telling you that, oh, you don't really have to think so much, you don't have to explore so much, just be happy with what is, you are going to settle for less. But when you are in a situation where people are telling you that you can do it, move ahead and go and do it, you can fulfill all the dreams you desire and dream big, and it's possible for you. Just push yourself and do it. You are going to bloom differently. Procrastination happens when you are in an environment that promotes procrastination. And procrastination is promote it when you have people who do not really care about you. So, whenever you are having conversations with another person, it's not for the sake of asking, how are you? But it's for the sake of talking to that person. It's for the sake of building a relationship with this person. And this will work for you in sales calls, to your YouTube videos, to everywhere you go. Because if you start to literally talk to the crowd, if you are literally interacting with the crowd, you will take interest in their interest genuinely. So when you take interest in any other person's interest genuinely, you get inquisitive about that person. You want to learn more about that person. You want to nurture more about that person. You want to really get to know that person more. You want to really connect to that person more. You want to really vibe with that person more. You want to sync with that person more and become best friend with that person more, because you really want to get to know that person. You really want to connect to that person at the core. And when you have that mentality to connect to just anyone at the core for the sake of connecting, for the sake of listening, for the sake of being present with that other person, you'll start to hold space for the other person. You'll start to be present for the other person. You'll start to hold space for the other person, and naturally the other person is also going to start to hold that space for you, and you are going to build a beautiful relationship. Relationships are not built by hugging and kissing each other. Relationships are built by really choosing to connect to one another at the core. Relationships are built by really getting to know each other's likes and dislikes, interests and not interests, and everything. To be vulnerable with a person, to allow a person to open up at the core, to allow a person to really share all of them, and really understanding where they're coming from, talking to them where they are based on what they are experiencing, and connecting to them where they are at this point is super important in order to build a relationship. You cannot build a relationship with someone by talking to them where you are and expecting them to rise there and making them feel bad about what they are going through. If a person needs to be in their victimhood state, let them. At this point, they want to purge it out, and all they are looking forward to is someone who can just listen to them, care for them, and really, really care. It's easy to say that, oh, I care about you, I care so much, but actions speak louder than words. It's time to really be present with one another. It's time to really connect to one another. It's time to really genuinely take interest in one another. It's time to genuinely build a connection based on really realizing our core essence. It's time to really connect to each other at the core and reflect our true essence to one another. It's time to really connect to one another and hold space for one another like we're all best friends. And that's how a tribe is formed. To formulate a tribe, to formulate a relationship, to formulate a genuine connection in any setting, personal life, professional life, we need to genuinely start being interested in one another. We need to start to connect to one another, and it's important to genuinely build a strong core real relationship. And to build a strong core real relationship, we need to be genuinely interested in the other person. And it can start right now. This is the time we can move ahead and start building a real relationship with the other person. Start laughing with the other person without judging one another. And when we don't judge each other and do not make each other feel like we need to make the other person feel like we know more than them if they're asking us something, we can start building a relationship. The culture of trying to tell people what to do, what not to do, has stopped us from building real relationships. And real relationships require real conversation, require real emotions, require vulnerabilities, require opening up, requires heart to heart connection, requires considering all the possible interests. Like, if you're trying to manifest a particular partner, it's not about getting that partner to be with you, it's about getting to build a relationship with that partner, getting to build a strong, genuine connection with that partner, getting to feel a sense of true bonding with that partner. It's a point of feeling a sense of oneness, a sense of connectedness with the other partner. And you cannot formulate a sense of connectedness or bonding with just anyone if you're not genuinely present in the situation. To genuinely be present, to genuinely take interest, to genuinely bother, to hear out, to listen, to hold space for the other person is the key to build a better world. Otherwise, we'll continue to be in a situation where people take terrible decisions out of depression and loneliness. And nobody deserves to go through that. Nobody deserves to feel like they're not heard, they're not seen, nobody's considering their part of the story. It's time to connect to each other at the root. It's time to talk to each other about our childhood. It's time to talk to each other about our emotions. It's time to talk to each other about parts of us we are ashamed of and hiding. It's time to open up in parts of our consciousness where certain aspects and awareness come up and interact from there. And that is where the real human aspect of yours can be preserved. Affirmations cannot preserve your real human aspect, honestly, because that's just a robotic way of being and simulating in a particular frequency based on reiterating the same thing again and again. And that sabotages your self awareness. But when you are truly channelizing your self awareness, like authentically channeling whatever you have to say, authentically channeling what's really happening in you, you build a real connection, you build a real relationship, you build a bonding of connectedness, and that starts with exploring your own emotions and starting to express that and talking to people from there, learning to hold space for the other person and realizing that they are a molecular aspects inside of you. So wherever you are sensing their presence, whatever awareness is coming up intuitively is your common point of community with the other person. And when you are aware of that common point of communality and talk to the other person from there, you start to build a relationship, you start to build a connection. Making your child feel like, oh, they're not understanding, they're not doing this, you need to beat them, is not going to help, because you need to talk to them where they are, at their level of maturity, at their level of understanding. And that is where emotional mirroring is extremely important. So, mirror each other's emotions, connect to people from a state of point of community. wherever you feel like you're not fitting in that crowd and you're feeling left out because you don't have anything in common, look for what can be a point of commonality for that moment, so that then and there you can be present with what is. Zoning out and being in states where you feel like, oh, I don't want to connect to anyone, I just want to be in my own zone, is actually a state of living from inauthenticity, because we're not realizing that the zoned out aspect is somewhere deep down our stress, is somewhere deep down our anxiety, is somewhere deep down a part which is trying to express something, a part which is holding a certain awareness. We are not expressing that. And that deep seated awareness that you are not expressing, the deep seated awareness that you are ignoring to be present with, is your most authentic core essence blueprint. And that's where you are. Law of attraction is not about how many affirmations you chant. Law of attraction is all about where you are, who you are being at the core. So, whenever your self awareness and understanding comes up, it is important to realize that what is the awareness coming up? What is the message that this awareness is entailing? What is the idea? What is the understanding that's coming forward to express itself? And once you are aware of that, when you are present with your own awareness and you are reflecting your sense of awareness at the core, you are starting to be present with what's happening inside, your most authentic vibe. And more you are present with that awareness, the more self-aware you are, you start to connect to your own core values, you start to get more clear on who you are, you start to get more clear on what is your true desires, and more you are real within, you can be real outside. You can only be that real to the extent you are real with yourself. So if you are being inauthentic, if you're not really expressing and opening up all parts of you, it will be very difficult to open up with another person and go that deep with another person. It starts with you. The charity begins at home. So it starts with you. So in order to really connect to the other person, in order to hold space for one another, in order to truly, genuinely feel a sense of connectedness, in order to genuinely feel a sense of belongingness, in order to genuinely feel like you belong here, you really connect, you really vibe, it's important to be present. When you are present, when you are clear on what's happening, when you are self aware, you can be in that state of holding space for another person. You can be present with another person only then to realize the aspect of them that's coming up. And when you realize that aspect of them that's coming up, when you realize the sensational awareness that's coming up through your intuition, you start to tap into a collective awareness and build an energetic bonding with the other person. And once you begin to create this bonding inside and out, it naturally reflects out because energetically you're holding space for one another. You're already both feeling good and are in a state of ease. And naturally, the awareness, naturally, the conversation is going to flow, and you are going to channelize and talk to the other person, and other person is going to talk to you. And in a very beautiful way, that zone of unification, the point of commonality, is built with the other person. Go ahead and try it out with your partner. Go ahead and try it out with your mother today. Go ahead and try it out at home today. And do this experiment. Genuinely try to connect to them and genuinely get into a conversation that is real. And when you genuinely get into a conversation that is real, without feeling like what you can get from that person, what you can take from that person, but only considering that how can we be both present and genuinely build a relationship of shared interest and point of commonality, that's where the changes start to happen. Whether it's calling in your ideal clients, calling in your ideal partner, it's all the same. And the key to process and connect to a person in that way is to really realize that what is it that they are genuinely interested in. Like, usually when we are talking about ideal partner or ideal client, we have a list of preferences, like these are the things they're interested in, this is what their lifestyle will be like, this is what they will be interested in, this is what they're all about. Once you are making even that list, make that list from a genuine state of authenticity. Like, why do you want to connect to a person who's interested in dash and dash? And how would you like to vibe with the other person in that chapter? How would you like to connect to that person at the core and vibe with that person? And why would you want to be interested in their interest? A lot of times when we force ourselves to be connecting to a person professionally or personally, we fake it that, oh, I'm also interested in what they're interested in. But then ultimately, when you are having a conversation, you are least bothered. You are least interested to really talk to that person. So it's genuinely important to get clear on what kind of a person are you looking forward to connect to and why. And why do you want to bond with that person? Why do you want to vibe with that person? Why do you want to connect to that person at the core? And why do you want to be close to that person? Do you genuinely want to be connected to that person or close to that person, or do you want to just do it out of boredom? And or because you're single and you're like tired of your singlehood and you just want to be that, you just want to flirt with that person. But it's not about that, but it's about genuinely taking interest in the other person's interest. It's about genuinely realizing that how can I make this person a part of my life? How can I share a common state of shared consciousness with this person by considering this person's best interest as someone who is important to me in my life? And when we genuinely start to consider these, we start to genuinely build relationship. It's not like having a friend because, oh, I know this person for so long, that is why I need to keep in touch with this person. It's not about it, but it's about why do I want to keep in touch with this person? And how can I keep in touch with this person genuinely and continue to build a genuine relationship and share something genuine? And share something genuine and to create a state where you are having a real relationship with the other person, it's so important to consider their best interest. Genuinely listen to a person, genuinely be present with a person, genuinely take interest in their interest, genuinely love them, genuinely make them a part of your life. And if you can't, let them go. It's high time to build real relationship and real connections. And if we are just around people because we are bored and we want to just take out our trauma on them, we want to just trauma dump on them and just walk away, it's really time to change those structures And all of that has created a chaotic world at this point. And we do not need more chaos. We need connection. We need unity. We need a sense of connectedness. Everybody's not going to be your lover. Everybody's not going to be your best friend. But there are different types of aspects of relationships and connection that we share with another person. So, what kind of relationship would you like to share with a person? What kind of bonding would you like to share with a person? And why would you like to share that kind of bonding with a person? Why would you like to connect to a person on that level? And do you genuinely want to consider that person as an important aspect of your life? Do you really want to, are you ready to consider them as a part of you? Are you ready to really tap into that aspect of them inside and connect to them at the core? And if it's a no, then stop being in such a situation and look for people with whom you can build a real relationship. And if these triggered you and you're wondering, like, I'm not being able to build relationship with people because I have so much stuff in me that needs to be channelized out before I'm present to build a relationship, congratulations on realizing that. And that's also a state, a phase of life. And even to realize that you have aspects in you that needs to be explored, aspects in you that needs to be channelized. You have to be more present with yourself. You need to unlock more of yourself before you can literally listen and be present for another person and hold space for another person. To realize that you need to work on yourself begins the path of really going within and starting to work on what's coming up and getting more self-aware and sharing what's coming up so that you can allow someone to hold space for you. And when you experience that someone else is holding space for you and you are getting to express whatever is stored in you, and you are getting to really be present and express all of you, you naturally are put in a position where you are ready to hold the space for another person as well. You are ready to naturally be the person who listens to the other person and unravel more of the other person. And in order to be present and express yourself and listen to another person, it's an ongoing process. So, your self awareness, whatever you have to express, has to be released, and you have to also allow to absorb what another person has to say and form the infinite loop of connecting to the other person and really hold space for one another. And in order to really hold space for the other person, in order to really be present, you need to be present. And if you have turbulating stuff coming up, it's okay. It's time for you to express, and someone is going to hold space for you. And then it's going to be your turn to hold space for another person. And it's an exchanging role that we all perform in this world, and it's an ongoing process that goes on of building relationships and real connection. Thank you, and love and light to you. If you love these live streams and if you'd like to connect with me for a complimentary discovery call to dive deeper, and if you want me to hold space for you and vent out what's coming up for you and express more of you, and if you would like to build a relationship with me, go ahead and contact me in the description box. You will find all the details.